I've been going through the Heart of Leadership and other things that I can find on the Integrate app, forming curriculum. And when I was serving as state president, going through and finding stuff for workshops, is I've learned a lot about myself. And so I'm curious, as you're developing all this curriculum, what have you learned about yourself throughout all of it? What have you learned about maybe what you do well, what you don't do well, like just advice that you found that applies to your life?
Yeah, I would say a few things here. Let me start with the way we really think about leadership. We do think about this, the character side and the skill side. The iceberg gives us a picture. But as I started thinking about how do I grow myself, because at this point in my life, I mean, all of us, I think every leader really, but I really have got to own my own self-leadership side. Like, how am I going to grow myself? And so the way we work with our companies and people that we talk to, and you saw that in the app, is we think process-wise. We think that it's you have to start by being able to lead yourself. I think the hardest person I'll ever lead is me. And I think if we can all start and go, you know what, I've got to lead me first, then all of a sudden we're now positioned to become a leader that others would want to follow. And so it starts with lead self, but then there's the lead others piece. And like when we have 5 fundamental skills to lead other people. And then once you start leading others, you got a couple people, all of a sudden you do well with that, you get promoted, and now you've got a team of people. And so there's some curriculum around leading teams, and ultimately, there are people who are in charge of leading an organization. Some of you guys are talking about, you're leading an organization. And there's some moves around that. And so I like to think process. As an old school teacher, I remember the lesson plans, there was what was called a scope and sequence. If you girls can remember going back all the way to first grade, they didn't come in on day one in your math class and hand you a trigonometry book. That didn't happen in first grade. They gave you some numbers, Kenzie, Sarah Beth. They said, we're going to count them, and you started with that. And then you got where you can add them up a little bit. You can subtract them. And then you probably multiplying our times tables, maybe third grade. I don't remember, but it was like, that felt like a lot. And then you're dividing them and you get to a little geometry or fractions, whatever, geometry. And, at some point, you guys may have made it to trig. I never made it to trig, but people actually do, and they're able to do that. But they don't start there. And I think sometimes we put leaders into a place and we expect them to know everything up front, and we really don't train them and have a process. And so one of the things that I've really tried to do in my own life is be intentional about trying to grow every day. So this would go back to your question really is I've just said, I am going to be a learner. I'm going to make a choice to be a learner, and I'm going to build on what I learn. And over 30 years, I'm not where I was. So let's just say I've made a lot of progress. I'm not where I want to be, but I've made a lot of progress, and I'm committed to continuing to learn. And I like to say leaders that last aren't built fast. It's almost like it's like a game of Mother May I when you're a little kid. It's these baby steps that sometimes can be as powerful as anything. And yet we live in a world that wants to take these giant steps and be there. And, I have people ask me sometimes, it seems like you've gotten more successful real quick. And I would say it took 30 plus years. It's actually taken 50 plus years to become any kind of success at all. It's just a lot of grind and a lot of labor. I understand people, go viral and all that kind of stuff. But I think the leaders that really have impact work on their heart, they work on their skills, they work on their relationships, and they seek to add value, and they don't really care about notoriety or any of those things. So I think it really does go back to some of those things. One other thing I would say to your question, like one of the ways that I feel like I try to grow is, I think, and I would say this to every leader, I think if you, there's a couple of ways you can think about it, but I would say to win the first hour of the day, that to me is an important part of what I would feel like would be my success. If I can take an hour in the morning to calibrate my heart, to think through my day, to know what I'm trying to do, maybe to get a little exercise, all those things that we say we don't have time for, it's that we really don't make time for. And I think when we make time for those things, they really make us more impactful. And so I think having that first hour of the day mindset, where you're going to read something, you're going to learn something, you're going to get your heart right, maybe go on a walk, whatever it is, your routine really doesn't matter as much as the fact that you have these habits ingrained. And I think about the best athletes in the world. They are the best, not because they were born that way, but because they practiced. And so, they do have tremendous physical skills, and they're unbelievable in some ways, but they really still have to put in the work. There are a lot of people with great skills. It's just when they put in that work, that hard work, and that hard work in an athlete's case, they separate themselves. And so I think that's one of the things we as leaders can do. And I think that's been helpful to me to really have a commitment to growing and a passion to learn.